How Luca is making over $48,000 this month by wholesaling real estate. What is up, guys? Zach in here, and welcome to the Backstretches podcast. And we have a Luca here, and Luca sent in the HUDs. He's shown the proof. He's actually done wholesaling deals with me. This guy is legit, and he's going to share exactly how he made over 48K this month and how he's going to clear over six figures easily this year, and how, most importantly, you can do the same exact thing. Luca, thank you so much for hopping on today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's an honor.
I'm excited. So one thing about my live streams, I always do them, and there's always people in there, and you never hop on the one-on-ones. You're kind of like a silent guy, like, hey, got another deal, thanks, Zach. And eventually, we started doing deals together, and you started showing me HUDs, like, whoa, right? And I'm like, hey, we got to uncover this guy and really, kind of in the shadows, bring him out here of a guy making 48K a month wholesaling houses. We got to see how you're doing it so the other people watching this can learn exactly how they can do the same thing. So let's kind of talk about your journey starting out in wholesaling real estate. How do you get started?
For sure, man. Yeah, I'll backtrack a little bit. I actually come from a international logistics background. Started when I was about 19 in 2013, and always knew that the corporate life wasn't the best fit for me. I just didn't know what avenue to go. And kind of search and go after, right? I always knew wealth was built within real estate, but I only knew how to get into it by two ways: either already having money up front, or, like most people think, it's a real estate license. So fast forward to end of 2020 October, I actually started my real estate class to get my license. And I was about 2 months in, and they started bad mouthing, of course, wholesalers. And when somebody normally tells me not to go after something or do it, I'm probably going to at least look into it and see what it's about. Yeah, so I got really curious, man. I got in a rabbit hole on Instagram, I think is where it all started, trickled down to YouTube. And that's where I found you guys, January of 2021. January 2021 is when I found you, and finally from October till December, I hadn't done anything. January 2021 is when I first started taking action. January up until it took me 7 months from January to close my first deal. My first market that I started in, because I lived there at the time, was Atlanta, Georgia. Little did I know, Atlanta is, I don't like the word saturated, but it's very competitive for a newbie to start in. Especially when the funds are limited, and I was still learning. I am still learning to this day. So I actually started going on the outskirts a little bit and ended up finding my first deal in Blairsville, Georgia. Very, very outskirts, mountain cabin, close to Helen. $4,000 deal. And what I cared more about was the proof of concept more than the money itself. I knew, okay, Zach is not a scam artist. Okay, he's legit, and this is actually a business model that I see myself being able to duplicate and actually be passionate about. So I only closed 2 deals that first year. The second one was a little bit bigger. It was $15,000, but what it led me to was a VIP buyer that I still spoke to this day. And how I found him was SMSing the county records, cash transactions in the Mesquite County at the time. And so we connected. To this day, we still work together. And that was my first year, about $30,000 of revenue that I netted. Come the second year, and again, this is all while I was still at my 9 to 5 at the international logistics industry. Come the second year, I started focusing on the outskirts of Atlanta. So rental markets, small markets, you talk about this one all the time. So Columbus, Georgia was a big market for me due to the fact that the military base. I started focusing on markets like that. And my second year was a little bit better. Finally netted, I think it was closer to 60,000. Again, not huge numbers, but to me, the fact that I was able to essentially at this point was a legitimate side business for me because I still had my 9 to 5. It meant more than the money itself. Okay, so now we're on year 3, And over the last couple of years, I've actually moved with the family to Dallas, Texas, and I opened up shop here. I was a little skeptical at first because once again, even though I now have had about 15 deals close, like roughly after 2 years under my belt, um, I'm confident enough, but still Dallas, once again, very competitive. But I didn't care. So I just I hit the pavement. I started cold calling myself. I kind of started again from the bottom. And I have built the market that it is now, and I am close to hitting 120,000 as of the end of September. So definitely have grown it exponentially. I actually just put in my 2 weeks at
Wow.
my job, 3 weeks ago. So I'm officially full time now wholesaling. And yeah, so that's my journey in a nutshell as of the last almost 3 years.
And then you pretty much made all your income for the whole year, basically half of it just this month, which is
Yeah, so
insane.
I actually had a pretty good, a good stable W-2. It was paying me roughly 80,000 a year, so it wasn't crazy, but it wasn't bad. Right, it's a pretty good salary per year, and yeah, in 6 months, again I'm at 100 and roughly 15,000 right now. So I've doubled it almost in 6 months this
I
year.
think it's more important how you got 48,000 in a month, but we got to
Yes,
get into all this stuff. This is really important. So, I mean, you went from one saturated market into another one, but you
correct.
found a way to do well. And we just got so many awesome, so much great stuff happened between that, right? Like you went to a new market and then you started doing deals, which is great. But let's backtrack to that first deal,
For
right?
sure.
In Georgia, that $4,000. How did you find that deal?
Yeah, so actually, I was with a former partner of mine. Shout out to Amari, still a very, very good friend of mine. It just business-wise didn't work out. He was really good with, at the time, analyzing markets. So what he ended up doing, I don't know how he did it, but using PropStream, he was using the heat maps. And there's a way, yeah, to kind of tell population over the years and like how it's moving and whatnot. And again, what I was trying to do, and I told him this, was I want to focus on outskirts of Atlanta. Clearly, Atlanta's got a lot of traffic. I don't care for that. Find me places that people don't know too much about that have close to the same type of traffic. So he ended up doing that using these heat waves. Again, I don't ask me about it. I don't know to this day how he did it. He showed me a couple of times, but he found Blairsville, and I honed down on Blairsville. I was using REI Reply at the time for SMS, small batches, right, about 100 or so a day. Again, I wasn't doing big volume, but in a place like Blairsville at the time, it was enough to market to because again, it wasn't as popular as Atlanta, so you didn't need thousands of texts a
Yeah.
day. So yeah, we connected over text. Of course, first thing I did after they showed some type of interest, I got them on the phone. I qualified the lead at the time. I'm doing still to this day, kind of really doing everything myself on the acquisition side of it, anyways. And yeah, and then how I found it. So how I found the buyer for this one actually, um, it was through New Western. I had actually partnered
Hmm.
up through New Western at the time, and yeah, they made it happen. Let's just say that
Okay.
they made
They
it
made it
happen.
happen.
Yeah,
They
they made
probably
it
made a
happen.
little, they made a little on top of that too.
Yeah, I'm sure they
Um,
did. Now that I know their business model, but yeah, they made it happen,
yeah.
and I
And
was
I got
happy.
nothing bad to say about them. I've actually done deals with them and I've had deals fall apart with them. I figured out it's more about the individuals than anything else. But yeah, we don't have anyone else to deal with. That works, right? Like we can't sell a deal. You go to a JV partner. That's what you did there. But yeah, the heat maps, guys, you go to freelson.com. We kind of show you inside of PropStream how to do that, but it does work. So first deal, 4 grand. But that second deal, second deal got a lot bigger. Was it in that area of Atlanta too?
No, no. So that this one was actually in Mesquite County, so that's Columbus, Georgia. This is where I
Got
met
it.
the my VIP buyer to this day that I still dispo to. So this one
In
was in
Dallas or in
Columbus.
Georgia?
So no, I still market in Georgia. I still
Yeah,
kept
that's
them.
what I
So
thought.
that's where, and I get to that. That's where I do my ROS, the ROS letters. So we'll get to the ROS in my virtual camp market. So yeah, so the second deal was in Columbus, Georgia. That was for 15,000. And once again, I was still using REI Reply at the time. So small batches, I would do 100, 200 a day. And again, connected via text. The person, he was for the people that doubt wholesaling, he was actually a judge in Mesquite County, the
Wow.
seller. He was a judge. Yeah.
It's a red
So
flag for me.
and we can we can connect also probably later, and I can show you now. I mean, this guy was the real deal, and he knew exactly what I was doing. I'm transparent. Everyone knows that I am, and we're all in the business of making a profit.
Mhm.
And he was happy with it. He was happy with how I handled the transaction. So yeah, how I found the buyer, how I found Javier, his name is. Once again, SMS. So I pulled all the county records, county records for that particular zip code that I had the property in. I just went on using PropStream, of course. I pulled the county record. I think I had about 70 to 80 buyers over the last. But keep in mind, this was back in 2022. Okay, so I could still pull. Sorry, 2021. So I could still pull a year of data, right? So I was pulling buyers of over the last 365 days. I had about 80 people to contact, and Javier was the highest offer at the end. And again, we've connected and built a business relationship to this day. So
Wow. So I don't want you to give away the VIP buyer, but I want to see how you got that. So did you pull like a prop stream list for cash buyers and texted it? Like, how did you find that general list? I'm not telling you, don't give them up, but like, how did you
yeah,
find that one?
no, very, very simple. So I just plugged in that particular zip code, like I said, where the subject property. I put in a couple of filters in PropStream, such as, of course, include cash buyers. Again, I did last sale date within the last year. I want active buyers as of today. I
Yeah.
did a minimum of 3 to 49 properties. To me, 3 or 49 properties, I'm looking at local buyers, 49 and up. You're starting to get a small to big hedge funds.
Oh yeah.
So I was focusing on local buyers for this particular one because it was a little bit beat up, and of course, hedge funds, when there's too much work, they kind of tend to run away. Yeah. So I was focusing on local landlords, and this guy is a big, big landlord. He is close to 3 to 5 properties per week,
Hmm.
if permitted. Yeah, and he's
I
in a
want to
few
get to
markets. Yeah, I know, man. And he's in a few markets. So that's where I'm feeding him currently right now in a few other markets in Georgia and using your ROS letters, of course. But we'll get to that, I'm sure.
that. Okay. So we're making some money in Georgia and then we move over to Dallas.
Yeah.
What
So
was
we
that
move over to,
transition like?
yeah. So that was actually for a personal reason. I actually had my first son was born. Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Last year in August. So he just turned a year, August 3rd. I already had a daughter. She turned 8 in July. So we moved here to be closer to my wife's side of the family in Dallas. And I'm kind of like Rick, man. I like being local when it comes to the business. I like
Me
being
too.
person to person. Yeah. So I wanted to keep Georgia because I had made such a great relationship with this particular VIP buyer, along with a few other ones, of course. So I was trying to find a way to keep it virtual, but I said no. And I don't care how busy Dallas is or how competitive it may be. I just got to get my hands dirty and just get it done. So I decided to open up shop here. My first deal in Dallas was actually the one that I brought to you guys
Yeah.
to
On the
JV
paper.
in Plano. Yes, it was from a code violation. It was actually we talked about this, I love data. It was actually an open storage code violation.
Wow.
So yeah, kind of they had a bunch of stuff just kind of sitting on the driveway in the front yard, and I guess that's what open storage is here in Plano, Texas. But
So how much was the check for you on that deal? That JV deal with us?
that was 7,500.
7,500. So it was about fifteen
It was
thousand dollar
it was
assignment fee.
15, correct,
And you got the other
15,000
half,
total.
and then I got the other half. So FYI, for everyone
Correct.
knows, I don't want to plug it, but sellmypaper.com, you got a deal, send it in, we'll look at it. I have to tell you though, I'll be just really transparent here. For every like 8 deals I get, 7 of them I'm just like, this is trash. And then Lucas comes in, we're like, oh, wow, we got to actually make some money on this. And
Yeah.
a little bit of headache here and there. We thought we were going to make more, and then it was good, but it works, So it's another success story. And just
What
FYI,
I
because
say. Sorry, go ahead, man.
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's not wholesaling without headaches.
Oh, every day. But because he did a JV with us, he got $7,500. I got $7,500. He's in Flipboard Plus for free. So hopefully it comes the October event. That'd be pretty cool. But I'm
I
telling you
will.
guys, it's legit. It works. It's cool. So you got that Dallas deal. Uh, are you still wholesaling Georgia mostly? Like, where are you making most of the money now?
Right now, it's got to be Dallas, 100%. So I actually, one thing I want to add
Has to
about
be.
the deal that we did together, Zach, is I made a great, I can also say friendship probably now as well, with the guy that you connected me with
Yeah.
in Dallas. Yeah, I mean, Nathan is amazing,
Oh,
right?
what do
He's
you
a
think? Yeah.
great source to have. I can pick his brain. We actually met a couple times. We had dinner together once. I was able to kind of pick his brain a little bit, but he's been doing it for almost 13 years. So not
Wow.
only did I get the 7,500 check, not only did I get the Flip with Work Plus, I made an amazing local connection. And I think that's worthy more, no offense, than the Flip with Work Plus and the
Oh, it is.
$7,500, to
Look,
be
I
honest.
don't play around. Like, you send me a deal in Dallas, I'm going to send you to one of the top guys I know in Dallas that we're working together on this. Boots
Yeah,
on the
he's
ground, entire thing, no money in your pocket. I deal with a 7-figure wholesaler. Boom, you're like that right there. And he's happy because he made money with you too. It's a
He's
win-win.
very happy. Well, so actually, man, the this actually led to the pre-probate that we're going to get to talk about. He provided me with one of his hedge funds buy box one day when we went out to dinner, and he said, "Man, if you ever feel like running a small campaign tailored to this particular thing, or if you ever just run across anything, let me know because there is a hedge fund that's been pounding at my door, and they're looking to buy very aggressively." So this last one that we talked about that I gave you the hustle right before this call, um, that was a $52,000 assignment, and it was picked up by one of the hedge funds. And yeah, I had brought it to
Love
him
it.
in 2 days. It was I picked it up from the seller at 275. 2 days after, it was disposed at 326. Um, yeah. And it was, I mean, it was very, very quick. It was, I didn't even know that it happened, to be quite honest, but
I'm telling you, man.
very transparent. Yeah,
And that would have never happened if you went to that guy's doorstep. He'd be like, Luca, no, get out of here. I don't want to ever talk to you. But because he made him some money, he wants to talk to you. Same thing with, like, I'm not saying I don't want to talk to everyone, but like, hey, if someone made me $7,500, maybe I'm more inclined to go talk to him, But you're inside of Flipwork Plus, so like, you just message me, I'll just do it right there.
of
But
course.
I'm telling you guys, like, people like the big dogs in your market, they don't want to deal with you unless they can make money from you. I hate to say it in a bad way, but like, that's how business works. And so do some JV deals. Be a guy doing it out there. That's a great one. But man, so that's a lot of money on that one deal. And now we're kind of fast forwarding today where you're doing a lot of Dallas. And I love this podcast because every single kid that says Dallas is too saturated, I can't make any money, I'm just going to send them this. Like, shut up.
Please.
Talk to Luca,
No,
get
and
to know
also
them, right?
connect him with me, and I will be
Yeah,
glad to kind of share. Yeah, let him pick. How
hilarious.
I kind of overcame that mind block. It's a mind block, really. It's all that it
Oh
is.
yeah.
And I'm glad to kind of share with anyone how. And it's no secret. It's just damn, pick up the phone, right?
If you look at the
That's that.
population of Dallas County and all the counties around it, there's so many, and there's a lot of wholesalers, but there's so many stinking wholesaling deals being done every single month. It's crazy, and the buyers are way easier there than in like a random place.
Very much easier. So Dallas is actually an amazing market because DFW is made up of 13 counties.
Yeah,
Only 8 of these counties are have a population of 80,000, almost close to 100,000 and above. Those are the 8 counties that are my marketing wheel. And let me tell you, you have tons of opportunities if you're able to kind of learn the market and focus down on those particular counties. There's deals to be done if you do the right amount of volume. I will say this, it does you do need the right amount of volume to be in DFW and make some type of noise.
so you were making some money, and now you're kind of going to some other marketing channels. Let's talk about the ROS, right? So
Yep.
how did that happen?
So like I mentioned to you, when I moved to Dallas, it kind of broke my heart to leave Georgia market behind because I did have these couple of relationships that I did build over the couple of years. So for the longest, I was trying to find a way to be virtual, and I didn't know what to do until you guys came up and introduced me to, not introduced me, but just us to ROS,
Yeah,
open letter marketing. Okay, so. And also by then, when I came across the idea, I also had some money to play with. And not only did I have a little bit of money to invest in, I also had the skill to talk to sellers by now. So I said, okay, well,
important.
that's all that I hear Rick saying is, yeah, it's cool to have money for mail, but also make sure that you got the experience along with it, because if not, you're just wasting the money. So I said, okay, I got a little bit. I can hold myself. I can hold a conversation with a seller. I have some money. Let's try to put this virtual thing together. So I reconnected with this VIP buyer. He gave me 4 cities in Georgia. That's 4 markets, which essentially is rental markets to where he can be low entry fee and rent him out for over 1,000 per month, right? And he's usually always picking them up lower than 100,000, so he's always super happy. And he gave me 4 cities. So essentially, all I did was I pulled a huge master list. It was close to like 15 to 20,000 contacts that I, of course, took my time. I didn't have the budget for it, but I took my time and split it up accordingly. So that's how I started my Georgia, re-engaging my Georgia market again with ROS. And I was a little skeptical at first because I started getting a lot of calls to where I started only using tier number 2, by the way. Tier 2 is the only one that I was going with because in these markets, again, I'll tell you, there's, Griffin, Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, those are a couple of them. These are low markets, right? So like sometimes those estimates or those wherever the numbers are pulling from, they're going to be very skewed. That's just something that I've seen, right? So sometimes a property could be worth 30, 40K, and his estimate is at like 120. So I just always keep the tier super low. And it also tells me that, say, hey, if I get a call, they're either chew me out or there's something they want to sell. I had to find a way to explain myself that, hey, this is just an offer. And it's not anything set in stone. I've showed up to a property. I've been able to afford more as I've shown up to the property, and we have to come down, right? So that's normally how I set the stage for that, and it makes it really easy for me to come down 20 to 30K. And that's actually how I got my first one. So my first one from ROS was in Milledgeville, Georgia, for $8,000. And my offer to them was 68 on the postcard, and I was able to bring it down to 32 and signed it to him, to my VIP buyer, at 40,000. So he was super happy. My seller, even though he was a little bit confused that the offer was higher in the beginning, I was able to explain to him well enough to where he was like, I understand the property doesn't work. So he was happy that he was able to sell it. And I was happy that ROS works, and that's
It just gets the call. You got to do the rest.
Some money. So that's how I re-engage. I've closed this year so far since April, since I've closed that first one, 4 ROS deals.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, the ROS works because it just gets people to call you. That's it. Like you get extra people to call you, and all you have to do is just let them know that, hey, the property's perfect. We can do that offer. So if you don't know what ROS says, it's basically a postcard me and Rick developed 2019. Basically, it took us forever to make an algorithm and all this fun stuff, but we basically partnered with Open Letter for it. And they basically just send it. They do all the work on the mail, but they use our system on there. We work together on it, and it works like crazy, but it won't work unless you actually know what you're doing. So like, why do I tell beginners, like, don't do direct mail, like cold call, learn how to talk to sellers, get through the nervousness, and you'll actually do great wholesaling deals. And so you're doing ROS now. Overall in your market right now, let's kind of look at this year. What split is between Georgia and what splits between Dallas, basically for your deals?
Great question. So Dallas is definitely heavier right now because, again, in Georgia, when I say heavier, I mean when I say heavier, I mean as far as assignment fees. Yeah. So they're higher in Dallas because, of course, I'm playing with different price points. So I'm able to squeeze in a bigger assignment, as to where in Georgia, again, they're smaller markets. We're talking about less than 100K houses. My assignment naturally will be smaller. Volume wise, I would say I'm probably 50-50, to be quite honest. I know you like the data, so I actually have it ready here on my podium. The biggest lead source this year, and I think we talked about this so far, has been referrals for me, word of mouth. I made $36,000 this year just off of word of mouth referrals.
So explain that, like other sellers?
Gladly, yes. So the property that we closed in Rockwall together, which was essentially the second one that we did, the seller brought one of his friends to one of the parties at the new house that he had moved in, and shared how basically my contact information, he needed to sell as well. So yeah, that was one deal, and then from that same one, again, another couple got referred to me from that same deal. So actually, the first deal brought me two more deals after that. So
I've had
that
a deal once
was,
like
yeah.
that where I got one deal and then they told two of their friends and I got two extra deals. It was amazing.
And
And
both were at their like a house blessing party, like the new house. They had the party and they referred and said, "Oh my God, who bought the house?" Like I know it was me at work, and we connected.
I mean, I wish there's something I could tell the audience of like, hey, you say this line and they're going to refer you. It just make the transaction go as smooth as possible. And if they got somebody, they'll let them know.
Yeah.
That's basically it, right?
One thing I say is, and I think you guys say this all the time, and it's so true, and I think it happens for me naturally, is just I always have a smile on my face.
That's
Like
it.
people, they're just happy to see, like even when they're in a bad mood, I'm not saying that I make them happy, but naturally when they see a smile, it kind of puts them in a more positive mood. I always just have a smile on my face. People just like sellers like dealing with me, and I love dealing with them. I think it's mostly about attitude, and it's yes, of course, it's a lot about knowledge, and the knowledge helps you be confident, right? And it helps with the positive attitude. But focus on the attitude. That would be my
I'm telling you, I tell everyone,
biggest suggestion.
even on the phone, someone's saying you just smile. When you
Yeah.
smile, psychologically, your brain changes how you're thinking, and you sound more chipper, you have a little more energy, a little happier. I'm telling you, it works. And so the marketing's great. Let's talk about this acquisitions thing, right? Like you're good at talking to sellers. And so the first thing I want to hear is probably the one people are going crazy on. It's like, how do you virtually do deals in Georgia? You don't live in Georgia. How does a seller even trust you? How does this process work, right? I want to explain your virtual system because that's where a lot of people get held up.
Yeah, for sure. So the virtual system, and this is actually something that I struggle with. I think naturally everyone should struggle. Like I think it's normal for you to mentally have a block about it. Okay. What's wrong with it is if you just get stuck there and you don't do anything. So my first recommendation is find what works best for you to get out of that comfort zone and try to explain the process the best way that you can to a partner, to a friend in front of the mirror to where it starts flowing in the conversation. I legitimately practice how you would tell it to a seller. How I do it is, and how I actually gain my first trust for the ROS. It won't work for everyone, but this is my story. Was I actually had my 1 year old, which at the time was about 8 or 9 months. He was crying in the background, and one day after we closed, the seller actually told me, he said, "Man, I'm happy that I was able to trust you. You know, it's really hard for me to trust people nowadays." So at this point, I had that rapport, that relationship, and I asked him, I said, "What made you trust me?" And he said, "Well, one day I heard your baby cry in the background, and no one can fake that BS." Basically, is what he said. And to me, so that should also resonate also for people that use their kids as an excuse sometimes to not get those calls done. Embrace them. Everyone's got some type of family, and guess what? If they're giving you a hard time because your kid is in the back, you probably don't want to work with those guys. You don't want to
No.
work with that person. They're not somebody that's going to be fun to work with until the closing table. So another thing that I would recommend is get comfortable and instruct really, really well your buyers, because sometimes, most of the times, you're not going to be there to walk the property, and sometimes you're not going to have a boots on ground available. So always instruct your buyers and share your expectations and basically let them know and say, "Hey, I plan to bring you many more opportunities and deals. If you want to continue to make money with me, please respect these instructions."
Well, what are the
Um,
instructions you're telling the buyers for a
yeah,
virtual deal?
absolutely. I really keep it simple. I say, "Hey, you're showing up as my contractor." That's it. So the seller knows that we're buying the property. You're showing up as my contractor, and that's essentially it. So now I've gotten good with it, and I always have a boots on ground,
Mhm.
and I have the funds for that as well. So I pay him about $100 every time. I really close with the boots on ground in all of my markets, and it's essentially always the same people. But in the beginning, I would say definitely get good with giving those instructions to those buyers, and also prior to that, to get over the seller's doubt and concern, definitely practice and explain to them how the process works. If once you start sounding confident, once you start sounding sure, and you're not stumbling on your words, naturally they'll trust the process. They'll just go along with it. Most of these sellers that you're dealing with, our avatar seller, they need a leader essentially. They need somebody to kind of walk them through that process, lead them through and how this is going to work. Once again, if they're giving you pushback, you probably don't want to work. That's not our avatar seller. So that's my experience and how I've dealt with it.
Wow. And so if I'm a seller and we're virtually and I'm in Georgia, what's your closing line? Like what's gonna be your closing line? Is it the regular one you usually use for your acquisitions? Is it different? Well, what's
Yeah,
that closing line like?
I'm a chameleon, man. I kind of just adapt to certain situation. I don't have a closing line. I have
Mhm.
different ones, I guess, and they're all, once again, they're all very different to the scenario. So one thing that I'm really good at, and it always is the same, is setting the tone
Mm.
on having people walk the property. Not too many buyers, but some people will be walking the property. And how I explain that is and say, hey, John, so like I mentioned to you the other day, over these next couple of weeks, I will have a couple of my contractors come through. All that they're going to do is they're going to give me a couple of bids. I kind of have them bid up the property for me, make them sweat up for me, and then usually the cheapest one or the one that I feel more confident with, I choose them and I award them with the job. What's the access like, right? And then I put the ball back in their court and let them tell me, oh, don't worry, I can show up anytime. That is always usually the same. And then another one that I'm really good at is, and I'm confident in doing, is and basically explaining and saying, hey, how did you come up with that $50,000 offer? That sounds insane. And I say, hey, essentially, we do use actually a computer. This is just an offer, a very soft offer. I've had a couple of instances where I show up and the seller is screaming at me and they think we should be paying more for the property. We show up and you know what? We tell them they're right. And if we can afford more, gladly we will and make the deal happen. And sometimes, John, we show up and the roof is falling, and we're gonna need that reduction, right? Clearly, that 50,000 won't work. So I hope you understand. And when you put it like that, it makes me feel at ease. I try to look at having a conversation as if I'm having a beer with these people, just friendly conversation, and they tend to open up like right off the bat.
So it's like watching a mini me. Like you use the same. You're doing like literally you go through the art. Like we have a direct mail course. It's like the same exact thing. It's hilarious, but like
Yeah.
it works. You kind of use what I say, and it works.
Dude, I went
So
through that thing like 3 times before I pulled the trigger. And I was putting my list together, I was
yeah,
studying it up, but I went through that thing 3 times in the course of like a month or 2 months before I started, and I clicked that button to like start the batch of
yeah.
first mail. So I got really confident with like how you guys handle the conversations. Everything is in Flip with Rick Plus. Everything is even in mailmastery.com, which is what, 100% free, right?
Yeah, so we changed mailing
Yeah,
mastery. It's actually freewholesaling.com. You just click direct mail, it puts you right in there now. Like you don't even have to think about it.
there you go.
But
So
if you didn't know, you go to freewholesaling.com. It's all in there. But I'm telling you, it works. And so we got your acquisition system down. And I think one last hack that everyone's probably itching to know is you're getting a lot of big assignment fees with hedge funds. How are you figuring out these buyers? How are you selling these deals? And most importantly, how are you selling them for like such a big amount of money? Is
yeah,
it
for
the
sure.
buyer, do you think, or is it the acquisitions getting the right contract price? What's
For
kind of the yin
sure.
and yang for you?
I think it's so for this. Let's talk about this last one, the pre-probate one from last week, which I will give the shout out to Nathan on that one because he
Yeah.
actually, for that particular one, brought the hedge fund to the table. And this particular hedge fund, because they're big yet small, so they're still expanding. They're for this particular property, they actually brought it at 96% of ARV. Right? I mean, it was, yeah, it was insane. So I think I did really well on the acquisition side at locking it up at 275. I think I would have still been able to dispo it to a local buyer for a much smaller fee.
Yeah.
So for that particular one that netted us to 52,000, I think it was a yin and yang. I did well in the acquisition, and the hedge fund came in super aggressive at 96%. Right? I mean, that's insane, unheard of in my eyes, anyways. So I've never had a buyer, anyone, close on anything that I brought to them at 96% of ARV. That's just, I've
Wow.
never had that before. Yeah. So,
How do you find these buyers then?
so this one here got brought to the table, but how I normally find hedge funds and how I normally find their primary contacts, I actually use Zoom Info.
Mhm.
and it's a pretty expensive software, but it definitely it's very much worth the bang for your buck. So essentially, Zoom Info is used in all industries, and you can find primary key contacts for that particular company. You can search companies by the name, by the address, by the industry, by the NAICS code, and I can actually find hedge funds, particular hedge funds in a particular area by looking up their NAICS code. So normally hedge funds only are registered under 3 or 4 different codes. You're able to plug
Yeah,
those 4 in. You plug in the area that you're looking for, and all of the hedge funds for that area pop up. You click on one that you want, and it'll give you acquisitions manager, acquisitions director, all of the roles, and it'll give you their primary phone number, their primary email. It's it's a little creepy, but it's part of the industry is doing
it
detective
works.
work. So yeah, it works amazing.
There's another million ways. Like if you got no money, like one thing I always tell people to do is like look at the properties bought and whatever off PropStream. You see the hedge fund, you're like, what do I do? I'll just go to LinkedIn or search Facebook, and these guys have Facebook profiles. They're like John Smith, acquisitions manager at hedge fund, blah blah blah. It's another
Yeah.
way. Like, or he does JV with you, right? I mean, that's another good one
Please,
too, right?
yes, 100%. Another one, Zach, I do want to give another gem as far as the prop stream one for hedge funds. Sometimes these hedge funds are going to go under like a weird LLC name, right? They're not
Oh
going to
yeah,
go under that. Yeah. So one thing I've done for those guys is the mailing address.
yep,
If you copy and paste it into the Google, you're going to find some other companies, but normally you'll find the hedge fund.
yeah.
They'll stand out, right? And then you can do what Zach said, go on LinkedIn or something like that. So yeah, get creative. There's tons of ways out there to make a deal happen.
I love it, man, dude. Your journey's amazing. I could talk to you for hours, but if someone's got a deal for you, and
Yeah,
that you want to be that other guy, like you're dealing with him now, it's kind of a
yeah,
reverse cycle. How can people reach out to you? Where are you looking to wholesale? Is it just Georgia, Dallas? Like what markets are you
yeah,
looking to do deals in?
yeah. Because honestly, I like if you guys are going to reach out to me, I want you to use my best resources, and my best resources right now are going to be Texas and Georgia. That's it. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Luca de Buffy, first and last name, or Instagram at rgr.luca. Yeah.
Right there. So hit him up. Like I always say, I don't let anyone on the podcast unless they give me HUDs. We had to wait a week for that big deal to close just so I can see the HUDs. Be like, all right, this guy's good. I've done deals with him. So yeah, I'm excited. So reach out to me if you've got any JV deals. Luca, your story is amazing. The more I'm really excited, honestly, to see what your journey is going to be by next year because it's only going to go uphill from here. And I'm so excited for you. So Luca, thank you so much for hopping on. What parting thoughts do you have for the audience before you head out?
Yes, thank you guys, the Gins. And for anyone out there that's doubting the process, please listen to these guys from A to Z. Go through that damn freewholesaling.com course, start there. Everything is in there for you to start making your first few $1,000s in real estate.
Beautiful. Luca, thank you so much for hopping on.
Yes, sir. Thanks.